Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network, and today's topic is freedom. What is freedom? Is it external? Is it internal? Is it some magical combination of the two? We get to explore freedom and how best to propagate it in our own lives. And before we get started, let's just take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, energizing all your cells, all your molecules, all your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So today being Independence Day, we get to talk about freedom. And we often think about freedom as externalities, human rights, a political environment that supports choice. And I think that we can recognize that our choice, our democracy is under threat, that we actually get to make an active choice to preserve it, to defend it. And we can move also from the externalities to what freedom of choice is internally as well. I mean, certainly there are politics that affect our choices and the availability of choices. And still, I'm going to take a leap and say that the most important choice or level of choice is our internal choice and our choice of our own sovereignty, to embrace our sovereignty, to embrace our freedom of thought. And from freedom of thought emerges other freedoms. Good morning, Rosalind. Welcome. Happy 4th of July. We're talking about freedom and independence and what that looks like. And when the founders of this country put together the Declaration of Independence, it was new thought. And our freedom to create our own experience is truly unbounded. And the ability to express that freedom in an ongoing basis takes, just like it takes a commitment to protect and defend our political freedoms. It takes conscious awareness also to cultivate our freedom of thought. And what do I mean by that? It can be very easy to fall under the spell of convention, of the input and the conditioning and the programming that is rampant in our environment through advertising, through social media, where we're conditioned to believe what is presented as important. We're conditioned to externalize our experience, to make our self-worth reliant upon externalities, meaning what we own, what we do in the world, what we accomplish, what we strive for, externalities. We're taught that we're only, like in sales, you're only as good as your next sale, for example, or in business, it's always more and better, or possessions, more and better, climbing the social ladder. These are things that we are socially conditioned to. And all of that conditioning impedes our freedom. And so our freedom of our true expression, our freedom of connecting to our own values, because our values are so largely programmed from the external environment. And the truth is, I mean, a truth anyway, is that our hearts know our own path. Our hearts can direct us in right action, right for us. And in so many ways, we are taught not to pay attention to the song of our soul. We're taught not to listen to our hearts. We're taught to override and overpower. And when we talk about freedom and we talk about independence, well, what we're talking about today anyway is making the choice to embrace our freedom of thought, our freedom to be an expression of our essential selves. And from that space of freedom, from the space of allowing ourselves to shed the attachment to everybody and everything else that is telling us how to be, when we give ourselves permission to release that, there's an experience of profound freedom that is not dependent upon external circumstance. That we can find a source within ourselves that transcends time and space and any of the limitation, to find a greater expression of our essence, of our soul, of our heart. And how do we do this? How can we detach from all these externalities? One way is meditation. Meditation can be tremendously profound in its impact on our body and being, on balancing our brain, actually literally balancing our brain waves. When we balance our brainwave patterns, when we become more coherent, we can connect more deeply to our essence. And when we connect more deeply to our essence, to our own knowing, then we have access to a greater experience of choice. We have greater access to our core values, our core drives, our core expression. And I'm putting it out there that is the ultimate freedom, is to find that essence and to be able to choose to live in alignment with it. When we talk about freedom of choice, yes, there are external dictates. And we also have our internal knowing. The more certain we are, the more clear we are, the more present and aligned we are, the more free we are. And we take a lot of our freedoms for granted. We take the freedom to make such choices for granted, I think. I think we don't even consider that we have those choices in so many ways, that we have a choice of how to interpret something, that we have a choice about how we view certain circumstances. We're told by the media in many ways how to think about something. And it doesn't occur to us in many ways to evaluate, to be discerning, to recognize that we have creative options, to recognize that there's so much more than the things that we are spoon-fed in terms of belief and propriety and the way things are, the way things should be, the norms, so to speak. And we have the freedom to be bold in our choices for ourselves, in our choices for our expression. We still have freedom of speech in this country at this moment. We still have freedom to pursue political choice. We still have certain rights. We have the right to vote. We have the right to choose, which is getting more and more restricted in more and more places, to choose reproductive rights. Today is a day where we can take this opportunity on Independence Day to recognize what our freedoms are on all levels, and to choose to honor those freedoms, however that looks, to honor our right to have sovereignty over our bodies. These freedoms, the social freedoms, are freedoms that we take for granted in so many ways. And now, more than ever, is a time for us to be recognizing that we're called to action to preserve these freedoms, to honor the freedoms, to recognize the freedoms, to not take them for granted, to not take for granted the right to vote, to not take for granted the right to speak up, to dissent. We have that right. We have the right to stand up and be heard. And we get to exercise that freedom. So, in talking about freedom, we're looking at all different levels. We're looking culturally, socially, and most important is our freedom of thought, because our freedom of thought then propagates out into our actions. And we don't have to perceive things in the same way that we're told. We don't have to perceive crisis when we can perceive opportunity. We're taught in so many ways to have a negative bias. We can create opportunity in any moment. We have the freedom to do that. It takes courage. It takes courage to think differently. When we can conceive it, we can achieve it. When we can imagine something, we can bring that something into being. And so our greatest challenge and our greatest potential is in challenging ourselves to think independently, to think for ourselves, to actually think instead of just glom onto existing thoughts, instead of following the pack, that we do have the freedom to be different. And it takes courage because there are consequences. The independence, declaring freedom from oppression. That's what Independence Day, 4th of July, that's what this is about, or was about, was declaring freedom from oppression. And we are our own greatest oppressors because we have adopted so many of the thoughts and beliefs that limit our capacities, that limit our capability. And we create that as our reality. And what's available to us is to step outside of that box, to step outside of those limitations, to step outside of the dysfunctional convention of so much of our culture, and stand back and see the bigger picture. Notice interworkings that may not have been there. What about the freedom to choose joy? The freedom to choose possibility? The freedom to choose positivity? Positivity gets a bad rap because people say, well, that's not reality. Well, we get to create our reality. That's our greatest freedom. We are creating our reality every moment. And what if we chose to create it as joyful? What if we chose to create it as perfect, as working? What if we chose our freedom to do that? What if we exercised our freedom to live into the world we want to see, rather than allowing ourselves to be oppressed by fear and limitation that keeps us under control, that keeps us disempowered? What if we were to step into our empowerment, our independence? Good morning, Serge. Welcome. Serge says, good holy morning, holy blessing. So what if we were to step into love? What if we used our freedom to experience and express love and joy and beauty? What if we chose to use our independence and freedom to witness that in the world, to create a new world? What if we did that? We each can. It's available to each of us. We're creating our world in every moment. And I know it looks like, no. The world is the way it is, and it's going to hell in a handbasket or whatever it is. You know, I know that's the way it looks. But the way that it looks is a function of how we're conditioned to see. And what if we use our freedom to choose differently? What if we use our freedom to see differently, to conceptualize differently, to interpret differently, independently, to recognize the beauty, to recognize the interconnection, to recognize the possibilities, to recognize that despite it looking, or because we're being told that it's dire and devastating, that maybe we can find beauty and joy and love. Good morning. I am loved by God. Welcome. Blessings to you as well. What if we have the freedom to recreate the world? We don't have to live in consensus reality. There's a whole other realm of infinite other possibilities. that we can create, that we can generate, that we can live into. And that's the ultimate freedom. That's the ultimate independence. And so, what if we exercise our freedom of choice? What if we exercise our independence to create the world that we know is possible, to live into that, to embody that, to express that, to exemplify that in the world, to hold that in our hearts, to hold that in our minds, to bring it forth, to be trusting life in its unfoldment, in its perfection. And isn't that the greatest freedom of all? Where we get to experience this remarkable connection and interconnectedness with all of life. And so let's cultivate that independence and interconnectedness all at once. And let's choose how we create our lives and our experience. And that's it for today. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. And I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. Please like, follow, and share Enlightened World Network and me. The links are in the description. And happy, happy, happy Independence Day. Until next time, so much love to you.